Hello all, I hope you're doing well today. While we hear a lot about the woke era being supposedly over, and perhaps it's true that the blue-haired yelling feminists with rainbow flags and nose ring piercings may well have died down a bit, the mission to undermine Western homogeneity, to gaslight the Western public as being somehow evil for being concerned about mass migration, is still very much underway. I'm referring here to recent reports in the Times and The Telegraph stating that concern over mass migration is a terrorist ideology, according to Prevent. That's the government's anti-terrorist arm. As you can see here highlighted in the yellow, if you believe that Western culture is under threat from mass migration and a lack of integration by certain ethnic and cultural groups, you're an extremist. Now, at risk of falling into the old cliche, this is undoubtedly Orwellian. The implication is that if you don't get on board with liberal modernity in its totality, there's something wrong with you. You're a bizarre person, someone to be watched, even jailed. Now, ostensibly, this is all very ironic because surely the Starminator-in-Chief himself would be at risk of falling foul of Prevent's ideology after his Island of Strangers speech recently. Yet to further the Orwell analogy, this could be an example of doublethink. Keir Starmer will speak about an island of strangers to try and win back lost votes to reform, while at the same time, if you're to say such a thing, he'll set his goons on you from his anti-terror squad to make sure that you're not allowed an opinion. And remember, these are just opinions we're talking about here. I understand if people are engaging in violence, that's a different matter. I never promoted that, I don't think most of us do. And it's quite clear when people engage in this way, it very much hurts the system because that's exactly what the Liberals want. Look at these evil, crazy, extreme monsters. Personally, I see this as the Liberal regime making its moves in order to control the narrative around mass migration and the change that's going on in the UK and the Western world at large. It would seem to me that they tried the woke attack, i.e. you're evil, you should be ashamed of yourself and your culture, and now that one's passed through and not quite worked, so they're going for a more outright political form of warfare. You're extreme, you're stupid, you're criminal if you disagree with the liberal ideology. Now, in an ideal world, this is where you'd want a strong patriotic party to be able to stand up and say, no, we won't be manipulated in this way. But yet again, reform leave us very much wanting.
By 2063, Britain will be minority white British. Is that a concern of yours at all?
Yeah, I don't think that's I haven't seen those predictions, and 2063 is a long way off.
It's not that long. It's a few decades.
Yeah, it's a few decades. Well, it's I'm trying to do the maths quickly in my head, but it's in most people. I'll be long gone. Put it like that.
Oh, that is the most appalling answer that I think many of us are sick and tired of. The absolute epicenter of solipsistic liberal individualism. I won't be around, so who cares? If you ask me, Richard Tice seems a bit of a liability. I mean, what does he actually stand for? It seems to be something like John Majorism, the predecessor to Blairism. And on top of that, he doesn't have the charm of a Nigel Farage that's going to bring in mass votes. And all of this just adds credence to the theory that reform aren't really going to reform very much. After all, they're basically just Tories deep down, and they share the same liberal ideology. I mean, when Edgington asks Tice the question, he has to think about the decades coming in his head, symbolising that he's never actually thought about the biggest issue facing us before in his life. And again, personally speaking, I don't buy lots of the reform shtick. For instance, their new MP Sarah Potchin used her maiden speech to talk about a ban on the Burka recently.
Given the Prime Minister's desire to strengthen strategic alignment with our European neighbours, will he, in the interests of public safety, follow the lead of France, Denmark, Belgium and others and ban the burqa?
Prime Minister.
Now, those groans afterwards from the majority Liberal MPs in the House of Commons are what I believe Reform are actually looking for, because it's going to play very well with the civic nationalist crowd and pull a lot of them back who've been concerned about Reform moving too close to the Liberal centre. Now, I know this might be an unpopular take, but I see the Burka issue as a bit of a red herring, and I personally don't see it as my business. Do I like it? No, but it's not my tradition. And of course, the counter to that is, yes, but we're in England and they should follow our way. We're no longer in some foreign country with their repressive rules. Yet speaking as a traditionalist, I do believe traditions run a lot deeper than national law. They can intertwine with it, but people's relationship with their tradition and God will often be more profound than that of the national level. And for that reason, while on a personal level the burqa may not be my cup of tea, on a traditionalist level I can't help but respect their right to live by the dictates of their own tradition. Now, that doesn't mean I want it in Britain. I'd rather see Britain be the domain of Christendom. But to me, we've invited these people into our home knowing they wear bags on their head. And when they've come in, it's now saying, well, you've got to take the bag off. But we knew they were baghead people from the start. In essence, this whole issue is just more evidence of the liberal ideology poisoning Britain and turning us into a confused place where nobody really feels at home anymore. And this in turn has created women like this, who's clearly struggling with her identity and, I believe, telling some quite tall tales.
I belong in this country. I was born in this country. I have a lot of English culture, but I'm also Muslim. People in London are sort of verbally assaulting me when I get onto the bus with my hijab and saying, oh, you're taking benefits. And when I said, no, I'm not, then they said, oh, but you're sending money back to your country. And I said, my parents are dead and I'm here. Why do I have to justify myself? I'm attacked on a bus just sitting with a hijab and Western type clothes, longer versions of Western type clothes. Why should I be attacked?
Now, firstly, just being born in England, speaking English and wearing some Western clothes doesn't make one English, just as if I was born in Japan, wore Japanese clothes, but still was a Christian in a Western style, wouldn't make me Japanese. Now, I'm sure that makes me some sort of extremist to our friends at Prevent, but let's remember, I don't hate this lady, I wish no ill on her, these are just basic facts of life. Now, I don't know about you, but maybe I lack the faith to be part of modern liberal multicultural Britain because I smell some porkies in this lady's story. I lived in London for 10 years and I have to say I very rarely, if ever, saw any Islamophobic behaviour. And that's because, and let's remember, the only people that can really be racist are the white Brits. There are no British people in London. Outside of Zone 1 or 2, we're a massive minority, and if you risked being Islamophobic, you'd put yourself at extreme personal risk. And not to mention, Zone 1, that's the central bit of London where everybody goes into work, where all the famous landmarks are. Everyone there is a liberal, and if you try to be Islamophobic, again, the authorities, as well as the general public, would come down on you like a ton of bricks. So while it's not impossible this woman is telling the truth, it does seem to me to be implausible. Yet this all fits into the liberal wet dream of, oh, everyone who comes here is so abused for being different and we're so terrible as Western people. We need to get rid of our own bigotry and then utopia will be born among us. Yet more evidence as to why I think this is more liberal fantasy than reality is what this woman says next.
I understand their anxiety, but I ask them to speak to someone. Speak to the Muslim who's serving you in the shop. Speak to people. And I hope that would be dissipated.
Again, this liberal fantasy. All you need to do is talk to Muslims and then you'll realise everything is normal and great. You've just been a stupid, ignorant bigot all your life. Now look, I was born and grew up in Leicester, a super diverse city, and spent most of my working life in London. I've spoken to hundreds, if not thousands of Muslims in my life and know many of them quite well. And yeah, sure, many of them have been perfectly nice people who are just getting on with their lives, and I've had a laugh with a few of them, but there've also been quite a few who haven't been perfectly nice. Case in point, here's a story from my own life. At 17, when I was at college, I went out for a break with a Hindu lad who was a rapper into Tupac Shakur and all that sort of stuff. We went to go and smoke a spliff, and yeah, I wouldn't want it for my own son, but thought I was cool back then. Getting down with the homies, yo! We met some Muslim lads and were smoking this spliff with them, and they were talking about how America is the beast and it's rising in the sea and how this has all been predicted. They were stating how Al-Qaeda were freedom fighters. I didn't think much of it till I got a bit older and thought, oh yeah, those guys were basically Islamic extremists. In my later life, in an office in London, a Muslim guy said that Hitler had to do something about the Jews. Again, HR didn't do anything. He said it in front of loads of people. Nobody cared. I'm sure Prevent wouldn't care either. After all, he's not a white guy complaining about mass migration. I also had a Muslim boss at one time who delighted in telling me that he didn't think very much of white people and he didn't find much character inside of them. Admittedly, these are all anecdotal stories, but HR would just laugh at you if you brought up something like that, as would Prevent, and bit by bit these people build a formation of how you understand the modern world. Yet as I say, I've met plenty of nice Muslims as well, but my point is there are problems, and simply saying people are extremists because they're concerned by mass migration and then noticing that many people who've come here aren't exactly fitting in doesn't seem to be the way to me. Yet our liberal overlords think very differently to all of this. They believe you simply must accept secular universalism, otherwise you're an extremist, you're evil, especially if you hold on to your own historic tradition, as Mark Carney, new PM of Canada, recently pointed out.
This is a special day, and the message of Eid resonates in this room, across the city, and I may say it should resonate with all Canadians. It's a story that some of us hear with slightly different nomenclature, whether the prophet is called Ibrahim or Abraham, Ishmael or Isaac. The lessons and values of Eid are the same.
Yes, clap along, bigots, or face the wrath of Prevent. Anyway, these are my thoughts as always. Do let me know what you think down below. Do consider subscribing to the channel if you're new.